For many people, Resident Evil is the classic survival horror game in history. With its tense, hostile and frightening atmosphere, zombies coming out of the windows, monsters that try to eat you alive, and... The living nightmare. But we are not here to talk about
Stars.
game, nor about zombies. No, we are here to talk about the game that could be considered the direct competitor of this classic. The other game that we, as young gamers, had to face, and as me, didn't know what the fuck was going on. Clutching our controllers with sweaty fingers and feeling prey of a different fear than that of being chased by zombies with an automatic weapon in our hands. A game that made us drop the controller and walk out of the room saying nope, nope, nope. Yes, I'm talking about the other heavyweight. About that game surrounded by mist and mysteries, by abandoned houses and dantesque visions. I'm talking about Silent Hill. Welcome to Infame Reviews. This is Silent Hill. Let me tell you a little story about my childhood. The first time I played a horror game, I remember I had like 8, 9, 10 years old. I'm not sure how old I was, but I was a child, okay? Well, I didn't have a console, I didn't have an N64, a PlayStation, or a Nintendo. So I had to go to a place that was in front of my house and pay for an hour to play any game. I had already played like every freaking game there was in that place. I mean, classics as, you know, Crash, Siphon Filter, Fighting Force, Barbie, I mean Metal Gear. After playing all those games, there was this game, this Resident Evil game, and this other genre of games that were not allowed somehow for children. They always were played by gamers that were older than us. These gamers always bragged about how they were toughest and they didn't cry like little girls when playing these games and all the shit. So one day, a friend and I decided to play one of them. You know, what could go wrong with that? I mean, what?
What could go wrong with that? I mean... what?
We decided to go and play Resident Evil. That was the shit in that moment. It was the shit. I mean, it was the greatest horror game ever. We went there and asked the lady to put Resident Evil on the console so we could play, and she looked at us as if we were going to buy some booze or something like that, cigarettes, I don't know. So, well, we had to convince her, and finally she agreed. I think she knew where that thing was going. She puts the game, and I remember the first thing, this broken down, burned up city, you know, filled with corpses and zombies everywhere, fire, explosions. I mean, our character had a gun, and we survived for some time, killed some zombies, and went through an alley. So, well, we were doing pretty well. And then we entered this gun shop. First thing that happens, a guy points a fucking shotgun in our faces. You are zombies, you are going to die. No, sir, we're not zombies, we're human. Look, we were talking. Oh, you're not zombie. Well, okay, come here. So he invites us in, and we think, oh man, an ally. Nice, maybe we can buy some weapon. Then 20 zombies come out of the fucking walls and start eating that guy alive. That was traumatic. I never seen something like that in a video game. And the guy was screaming like agony, real agony. We as little boys started to run and scream like little girls to our house and lost the hour of gameplay. A rational person would say that this experience would be enough to leave those games behind me. But no, something inside me said,
that shit was nothing. You can do it, man.
And that voice, that strange testosterone impulse, made me go back later and face that game several times, facing fear, overcoming the threat that those zombies and monsters presented, those horrible monsters. In time, I managed to play all Resident Evil games I could have my hands on, even more when I got my first PlayStation console. I played them all, and almost every one of them I completed. I conquered my fears, as many of us had to do with these games. However, everything would change a fatidic day. The day I found the title Silent Hill in a CD case. At first, I had no freaking clue what the game was all about. I didn't even know if it was a horror game, an RPG, a strategy game, a racing game. I didn't know anything about the game. However, by the cover of the case, I could tell it would be something strange, mysterious. Just look at the CD case and tell me what you think. This is the original Silent Hill cover for Western public. Not the Japanese one that is more bloody, minimalistic and weird. It just shows a misty face, a girl, and a creepy house in the background. Creepy house. For a boy my age, 15, 16 years old, I didn't know what to make of it. It wasn't something as direct as maybe the Resident Evil cover, where you can see the man with the gun and monsters around him and his face of horror. Or the cover for Resident Evil 2, where you could see clearly a zombie coming out of the fucking CD case to kill you with his dead eyes filled with hatred and evil. The Silent Hill cover was different. It was gloomy, it was melancholic, it has this sense of sadness, of mystery that I never seen in a video game before. And at that moment of my life, I didn't think a game could be that. A game could be gloomy or mysterious or sad. I just thought games could only be action-packed or horrifying, but never like depressing like that one. Because you look at the cover and you feel, what a fucking depressing case. I remember seeing the intro of the game and saying, what the fuck? Who are those people? What are they doing? Are they talking? Who's the creepy old lady? Why is there a church? What with that nurse? Who are the monsters? What the fuck is going on with that creepy music? It was a movie sequence more than a video game sequence. Something new to what I've seen so far. So of course I didn't know what the hell to think about that. There was no internet for me in that time, so I could not search what was going on with all that weird shit. Weird and somehow creepy shit. However, something told me, deep in me,
Don't play that game, man. That's freaking the shit out of me, man.
I didn't hear the voice. I ignored it. That, ladies and gentlemen, made me live one of the most unnerving experiences I ever had as a gamer.
No puedo mirar para atrás, no debes mirar para atrás, no debes mirar para atrás.
Apart from that one.
What is this? What's going on here?
All that adventure, or should I call it nightmare from hell itself, made me take my controller, put it in the ground gently, turn off the console, and look for the latest episode of Barney. That shit was too much, even more than what I had experienced with Resident Evil. However, comparing, there was not as much blood as in Resident Evil, and I was just attacked by two horrible hellspawns, when in Resident Evil I was literally being surrounded by flesh-eating zombies. The question remained, why that game was so scary? Who would know that after so many years I would find the answer? You see, Resident Evil can be considered as a game 100 times more bloody and violent than Silent Hill. I mean, the monsters, the zombies, the blood everywhere, a freaking city overrun and turned into a battlefield. While Silent Hill, we could say, is more soft in that sense, apart from the nightmare dimensions that happen in various places in the game. But still, with alternate dimensions and all, there's not so much violence as in Resident Evil. The violence is not as graphic, the heads don't explode, everything is put there very subtle. and leaving us with a very unnerving sensation. The answer many would think by now is that Silent Hill has an atmosphere, a well-made atmosphere, that frightens even when nothing is happening. It's true, you could say that is the case. While Resident Evil is more centered in creating tension by making you battle the monsters and the general nature of the enemies and difficulty, Silent Hill is based more in what is around it all, the scenery and the atmosphere of the game. However, the answer goes beyond that. To understand it, we have to know the difference between two terms: horror and terror. Terror, according to the Gothic literature, is the feeling of anticipation and unnerving that precedes the horror experience. For example, terror would be the smell of a rotten corpse, the silence before the storm, the eyes of an animal that is going to attack you. The horror, on the other hand, is a menacing experience itself. I mean, finding the dead body, the storm destroying your house, or the animal chasing you through the woods. Terror and horror are applied in literature and film in a very effective way. The scene of the character walking through a creepy place while the ambience becomes more dense, the expectation of an imminent danger, and then... The same can be applied in video games, and if we look at Resident Evil, we can see how. The character approaches a crouching figure. We know that something bad is gonna happen. That creepy bastard is crouched next to a corpse. We feel terror because we know something bad is gonna happen, and then we come closer and... it's a bloody zombie with dead eyes. Then we throw out the controller and say, fuck this shit. I explain myself once more. Imagine these two scenarios. Number one, you're sitting in your room, minding your own business, when suddenly, BAM! A fucking monster breaks your door and tries to kill you. Number two, you're sitting in your room, minding your own business, when suddenly you hear a tap on the window. You approach the window and you look outside to see this. Standing there, motionless, looking at you with dead eyes. What will be worse? What will be more scary? You see, the two situations are scary, but the first one is more direct. I mean, the motherfucking monster breaking your door and chasing your sweet ass. The other one is subtle, it's menacing, but it's not doing anything real. We can't make any kind of sense out of it. Is that thing going to attack me? Is that thing going to go away? Is going to stalk me? How long will it be there? Is it bad? Is it good? That point of not knowing, that point of not finding a reason, an explanation, still be frightened, is what we will call terror. The situations we can make sense of are easier to face, even if the situation is that a fucking monster is trying to kill you. Our mind has a floor to stand on, and that floor is run like a little girl and scream like a little girl. However, when something falls into the terror realms, our mind does not know what to do and what is happening, and tries to make a sense out of it desperately. That feeling of unnerving and terror is greatly portrayed by the French author Guy de Maupassant. The man wrote a little story called Him. In that story we know a character that loves to be alone. He likes to be alone. He has lived alone all his life, and he doesn't need or want anyone in his life. One day, he decides to get married and have a family against his will, and he tells us why. One very gloomy night, he was coming home. He was trying to get some rest, to sit in his favorite couch, to read his favorite book, to drink his favorite beverage, when he noticed when he entered his house that he was not alone. He had a visitor. He thought he was a friend, so he walked to greet him. He was sitting in the couch, facing the window, so he could only see his back and his hand dangling from the couch. He approached to say hello and realized that the person in the couch was not his friend. In fact, there was no one in the couch, though she said, "Oh my freaking God." The other shows us how the world of a character is turned upside down. The stranger that was in his couch, hallucination or not, made the character flip so much that to never have to experience that shit again alone, to be in the same room with him alone, decides to get married. That terror feeling is accomplished to perfection. The unknown, what we don't know, and most important, what we don't want to know. And that, ladies and gentlemen, unlike Resident Evil, Silent Hill does it pretty well. Probably the scariest moment for me of Silent Hill are those moments in which, despite not being a real danger, one is about to throw the controller to the floor. Some examples are these. Nope. They are situations where there is no clear danger, but they put us on our toes nonetheless. One of the keys for the success of Silent Hill is its ability to generate these uncanny feelings, these sensations of true terror and unnerving. Something games didn't achieve to that day, except for Majora's Mask, but that one came out later. What a freaking creepy game, man! And despite Silent Hill using a survival horror system similar to the one of Resident Evil, in which the character faces the foes with weapons and with very limited ammunition, the fighting as such is not as important and is not the center of its mechanic, but the feeling preceding the fights. Many of us remember how that hellish radio started making that horrible sound when the creatures approached, and we knew that they were coming. In fact, that element, the pocket radio, has been one of the most important elements of the Silent Hill series, because it accomplishes its purpose perfectly, creates the anticipation, and then BAM! Creature from the depths of the fifth circle of hell is attacking you as if you were a piece of delicious cake. However, to understand the real impact Silent Hill had in its moment, we have to go back in time to the moment where it was created. The game began its development in 1996 by Team Silent, a group of Konami Tokyo employees. For the time, there were popular horror games in the market such as Resident Evil and Alone in the Dark, games that became a great success and started a cult for the survival horror in gaming communities. Konami wanted to create a game that could compete with those horror titles, an incursion of the company in that genre. For that, they created Team Silent, a group that had to develop a horror game in a Hollywood Class B style. Konami wanted the game to appeal to Western audiences and was asking to include some
Blood, monsters, explosions, fast car chases, automatic weapons, and things.
However, Team Silent, a group conformed by developers with a more independent spirit, didn't oblige Konami's requests. Instead, they went their own way to make a more artistic and less commercial project. For that, they visioned a story with influences of the US horror literature, the sci-fi film genre, and different artistic, musical, and visual references. Such references as Stephen King, David Lynch, Stanley Kubrick, Alejandro Jodorowsky, Francis Bacon, Salvador Dali, and even the almighty, the all-knowing Master H.P. Lovecraft.
All hail the great Lovecraft. All hail the great Lovecraft.
The idea was to create a game that centered mostly around telling a story than in the simple gameplay. A game that were to take the player inside a world in which he had to discover what was going on. And to tell the truth, they did an amazing job, because in the first 2 hours of gameplay, I could just say, now what the fuck is going on with this town? The character design, the scenery design, the sound and the enemies, they are all connected, reflecting each one a part of the story, creating in the process a complex universe that acquires its own life, As one walks into its creepy alleys, it's a transgressed reality, corrupt and twisted representations of common beings and things. But to understand the true nature of these creatures, these scenarios and these monsters, first we must know the story behind that beautiful New England town called Silent Hill. So slowly and gently, let's intern ourselves in the fog and pass the rusty welcome sign to start a little touristic guide of this lovely town. No thanks, I'm gonna go now. Thank you. Wait. It all started in the colony. Silent Hill, or most clearly, the Toluca Lake that surrounds Silent Hill, was known by the ancient tribes of the region as the place of the silent spirits. Nice, ain't it? And in this zone they performed diverse rituals due to the great and mysterious power the area appeared to have. It was considered a sacred place until the European settlers came in 1600 and fucking killed everyone. Or kicked them out, but mostly killed them. The place was occupied and there were colonies and stuff established until 1700s, when the epidemic started. A strange disease that expanded throughout the entire colony of Toluca Lake and killed a lot of freaking people. So the settlers said, fuck that shit, took their things and left the damn place. The place was deserted, as it should be, freaking hellish town, for almost a century, until 1800, when it was resettled. A prison was created as well as a hospital, the famous Brookhaven Hospital, and the official name of Silent Hill was given to the town. There was another outbreak of the epidemic, but there was a hospital, so the residents said fuck you to the epidemic and all was happy and cheerful. Even a coal reserve was found underground, which managed to boost the economy of that godforsaken town. Everything was going well until around 1890, when some people started strangely disappearing. However, that didn't stop the growth of the town, reason for which the same was sold as a touristic attraction in the 19th century. Visit Silent Hill and get a free pass to the very depths of hell itself. In the 20th century, Silent Hill was becoming a town with a great touristic wind. That, of course, until in 1918, a ship called the Little Baroness disappeared without a trace in Toluca Lake. That made many tourists say, I think these holidays we will go to your mother's house, dear wife. And not only that, in that time the rises in Silent Hill, or better, takes control the well-known Order, a group of douchebags that created a cult God knows when, combining tribal rituals with black magic and other mumbo-jumbo. The goal of this cult, as if it was strange, was the domination of the world.
Of course!
Just kidding. Not so much the domination of the world, more to bring the apocalypse by the means of invoking a god that would cover the entire world in the true paradise. Yeah, like that paradise. This order takes great power in the 20th century and infiltrates the higher ranks of the government, expanding to the other towns in its path. That initiates a series of strange deaths, not related of course, of Silent Hill residents that oppose the order, investigators that put their noses in the order's business, and pretty much any person who will know too much. Being a town controlled by a mad cult and being located right beneath a black magic nuclear reactor, Silent Hill stands itself as the place where the story of our main character begins, Harry Mason. Harry, the good Harry, is our hero, a common guy that one day with his wife, traveling through Silent Hill, finds a baby. The baby was abandoned in the middle of the road, and the couple, overcome by the discovery, decides to adopt it. They didn't ask the authorities whose baby it was. How did it get there? If someone lost it? Nope, just took it. Just simply took it. Okay. No problem. Not a problem with that. The baby is called Cheryl. Cheryl, and is raised by Harry because the wife of our protagonist dies
A few years after finding the baby.
Harry's heart is broken for the loss of his wife and does what he can to raise the child, the only thing that he has left in the world, until one day the little girl tells her father, "Daddy, Daddy, I want to go to Silent Hill." "But sweetie, why do you want to go to Silent Hill?" "I don't know, I want to go to Silent Hill." "But that place is not very safe. Many people have disappeared. I want to go to Silent Hill! I want to go to Silent Hill! I want to go! I want to go! Okay, Jesus, but we go and come back really fast, okay? Yes, Daddy, of course. So both go to Silent Hill in the middle of the night. Mid-road, a police officer passes them by. Everything normal so far. Then Harry sees the police officer's bike crashed in the road. Normal. And finally a strange woman stands in front of the moving vehicle and the story starts. The story is told by Harry's point of view, our frightened father, our hero. And the first thing the game does is a very clever tactic in terms of narrative. It creates an urgency. And the urgency is, where is her daughter? Where's that little brat? She is lost and us as players have to find her. I must confess that the first time I played the game, I really felt worried about Cheryl. I felt that kind of fatherly love for the little brat. So when I saw her standing in the middle of the mist, I thought to myself, "Oh, thank God I found you. Now let's go to the car and get the fuck..." Wait, where are you going? Wait, come back here, you little... This segment alone is one of the best ways a horror game could start. In the beginning, everything is seemingly normal. A car crashes, a child is missing, everything is normal. Well, classic in the narrative, and they are all things you can expect in life. However, with time you begin to realize that not everything is so normal as you thought. Despite Harry being a grown man, he can't reach his infant daughter. Worst thing is that we know that the further we go away from the car, the harder it will be to return in that freaking mist. We start venturing into an unknown world, and we start to doubt about what we see. And the best part is that we control the character the entire time. We are the character, which creates an immersion in that place and into that situation, caring for Harry and for the little sneaky brat. All that shows us the tone of the game and the town in just the first minutes of gameplay, and creates in us, like it or not, a deep feeling of awkwardness, more so when we finally get to the alley. Let me tell you why, from a narrative and gameplay point of view, this segment is pure and simple awesome. What a game does in its first moments of gameplay is generally to show you the basic controls of the character and abilities. How to shoot, how to move, how to perform actions. That way the player can continue by himself. Silent Hill does not do that in tutorials or screen helps. Silent Hill puts us in the action, in the battlefield, because the only thing we need to do at the moment, the most urgent thing, and for what the player begs in the first minutes of the game is, you have to get that little brat and get the fuck out of this goddamn place. You play from emotion more than to simply learn to handle your character and its abilities. This immediately prepares us for the general tone of the story, a story more focused in discovering the mystery than to kill hundreds of zombies. Then you have to follow Cheryl. You go deeper. You abandon your comfort zone. You slowly start to leave everything behind, entering with Harry in the second great characteristic of Silent Hill, the journey, the trip to the unknown. Slowly the game gets you deeper without you wanting it, into its depths, its story. Finally you get to the alley, and it's there that you start the real no-return point, the third great characteristic of Silent Hill. Not being able to go back, getting stuck, and only being able moving forward. The
alley kicks us in the nuts immediately with the corpse of an animal in the middle of the yard, the game shows us with that subtle element that this place is not only mysterious, but that there is also blood and death. But why an animal and not a human? Wouldn't it be more horrible if it was a human? It would be horrible, yes, but no. The subtlety and immersion are keys. The game does not show something that would really make a person say, I'm in immediate danger. The remains of a human body on the floor is the universal sign of, they can't kill me here. But the remains of an animal simply say, there an animal was killed. But it's not human. The danger is not imminent. Maybe these people like to kill animals on the street. Whatever rocks your boat, ain't it right? The danger does not grow, but the sensation of danger. The terror grows despite nothing really dangerous has happened, but we know the thing is getting worse. And the worst thing is that we don't know where it is going, much less when we find that camera angle in the alley. We advance through the alley and we realize that the camera is moving, and the movement suggests that there is something in front of Harry, and that something starts to go up and hide between the pipes when Harry comes closer, just to go down again without taking its gaze off from Harry. The game makes it implicit that Harry is being observed, makes implicit that there was something in front of him and that he didn't see it, like it was some sort of invisible thing. After walking a little longer, another invisible camera watching us. Just lovely. We come through a door and suddenly an alarm sounds in the distance and everything goes dark. The game is telling us, with the fact that everything goes dark in just 5 seconds, that something really weird is happening. Until this moment, only simple things had happened. A crash, the fog, the remains of the animal. Everything was merry and happy, but when the lights go out is when things get serious. Serious as in haunted town of hell serious. Upon walking some more, nothing out of the ordinary. Just a freaking wheelchair laying on the floor, which still has a wheel moving, as if someone just threw it there moments ago, like someone was waiting further in the alleyway. The game is now messing with us directly. It tells us clearly, you are not alone. It's at this point that I personally doubted if I should go forward or turn off the console and check on Barney. However, I kept going because I'm a man. Nope. Shit. Now a freaking stretcher with blood. And what appears to be a person. Now the thing is really dangerous. A human body, or what seems to be one, with blood. Things take another turn. Now it's something that threatens directly our character and his daughter. The game plays with the urgency and with our ability to continue, putting us in front of things that would make a sane person to turn back and look for the nearest respectable police officer on site. We are slowly getting into not only unknown terrains but also dangerous terrains. However, we don't know how dangerous it will be. We don't know anything about enemies. We don't have weapons and we run in the most funny way possible. If we choose to continue, we know that something really bad, really malo is going to happen. But we decide to continue for sure, and what we find in the end is the culmination of one of the best horror sequences in video game. The music starts to play loudly and with some tense tones. We see blood, fences. The game is leading us like if we were cattle in a slaughterhouse. The music creates not only an unnerving sensation, but also a horrible one. The sounds we hear are chaotic, cacophonic. It generates an instant repulsion. The game wants us to be in a constant state of tension and disgust. We walk towards the end of the slaughterhouse and we face this. Oh Jesus! A really fucked up human body crucified to a fence. The danger is real. The game is putting a Holy dogs on a swing. What are those things? Oh my god, oh my god. Nope, nope, nope. Much better. That part we just witnessed is one of the most perfect combinations of horror and terror in video games. A constant growth of an unnerving feeling that culminates with a horrible occurrence, and one of the best sequences that a horror game has been able to create. Not only because it shows us blood, death and horrible things, but because it immerses us fully in what Silent Hill is, in what we will be experiencing for the rest of the game constantly. It gives us a taste of all, and just in a sequence that lasts no longer than 10 minutes. It presents our main character, his conflict, and manages to create empathy with him, sharing that descent into hell itself. And all of that without firing a single bullet, or presenting an introductory text of 10 paragraphs. It's genius, pure and simple genius.